And today we are going to start with chapter 8. This chapter is the second chapter in the order of Bhakti Yoga, the middle 6 chapters of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And this chapter is again very important because Lord shares how a living entity can come back to him. That is the main theme of this chapter. How a living entity who is conditioned in the material world can come back to his shelter, can come back to his eternal abode. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada named this chapter as Attaining the Supreme. How to attain the Supreme? In the previous chapter, we have studied knowledge about the Supreme, knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in our last session, we saw how there are 4 types of pious people who surrender to Krishna, and there are 4 types of impious people who don't surrender to Krishna. And then we saw how there are other categories who surrender to demigods. Krishna called them less intelligent. And then there is a section of people who consider Lord as impersonal. Krishna told them as no intelligence, abuddhaya. And then Krishna tells how his devotees are actually under the shelter of his internal potency. So, although Krishna shares a great detail about him in the 7th chapter, and he gives hint about how his devotees come back to him, but there is no detailed description of how to attain Krishna's abode. Therefore, this particular chapter is dealing with that subject matter. How to obtain the absolute nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, this chapter in Sanskrit is called as Tarak Brahma Yoga. Tarak means deliverer, or Akshar Brahma Yoga. Akshar means also imperishable. So, from the world of death to the world of eternity, from the world of darkness to the world of light, this journey is described in chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. So, we will start this chapter. We request devotees to parallelly also study the translations and purport, because the way this course is designed, it can give the overview of the chapters. It's not possible to go in much detail in such a short time. It's very, very difficult. So therefore, there is like sometimes we may have to also skip some purports, and we may have to also skip some details in the chapter. But we go through the overview of the chapter. What is the theme? What is the objective? What is the flow? What is the link between the verses? And we see the important points of practical and preaching application from Srila Prabhupada's purports. So that is the way we study in our Bhakti Shastri course. So let us see the background of this chapter. As we have studied in the last 2 verses of the 7th chapter, Krishna talks about a few terms which are very new for Arjun and all the readers of Bhagavad Gita. Like Krishna tells in 29th verse, intelligent persons who are endeavoring from liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. So, like that, this Brahman word and transcendental activities, which is Adhyatma, and then materialistic activities, which is Karma, these are few words which are new described in this particular verse. Then 30th verse, Krishna talks. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of material manifestation, of the demigods, of the methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. So again, Krishna throws many new terms. Governing principle of material manifestation. This material manifestation is Adi Bhutam. Then of the demigods, Adi Devam. Methods of sacrifice, Adi Yagya. And how to remember Lord at the time of death, Prayana Kale. So these 7 words become the theme for this particular chapter. So you can note down these words: Brahma, Adhyatma, Karma, Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, Adi Yagya, and Prayana Kale. These 7 words become the subject matter for 8th chapter. So Arjun, when he heard these last 2 verses from the last chapter, he asked Krishna, what are these 7 terms? What exactly you mean by Brahma? What is Brahma? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? What is Adi Bhuta? What is Adi Deva? What is Adi Yagya? And how one can remember you at the time of death? So these questions were asked by Arjun in the first 2 verses of this chapter. So Usha Mataji, can you read the translations for first and second verse?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Verse 2. Who is the Lord of sacrifice, and how does he live in the body? O Madhusudana, and how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death?
Actually, Prabhupada's translation, he gave answer also. Arjuna was not knowing what is Adi Deva, Adi Bhuta. But when Prabhupada translated, by question only you can understand what Krishna wanted to tell. But Arjun just asked the terms. What is Brahma? Brahma can have many meanings. See, in Sanskrit, one word can have many meanings. Like Brahma can refer to soul. Brahma can also refer to impersonal aspect of the Lord Brahman. Brahma can also refer to mind. Brahma can also refer to body. Brahma can also refer to soul. So all these aspects, these words have different meaning. And therefore, there is a need of proper teacher to tell what exactly this term means. Like, my voice is clear? Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu, you are audible.
Amarnitai Prabhu, maybe you can log out and log in again. Yeah. So one word in Sanskrit can have many meanings. Therefore, there is problem that when people study scriptures without proper parampara, without proper guru, then they get confused and they bring out some meaning which is very horrible. Like we see in the life of Sripad Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya was a great South Indian Acharya who established Sri Rangam, and for Sri Vaishnavas, he is the highest authority. So when he was a student in the Gurukul of Yadav Prakash, his teacher, so this Yadav Prakash was a Mayavadi. And he was interpreting the scriptures in a very wrong way. So one day, Ramanuja, as being a student in his Gurukul, was massaging his feet. And Yadav Prakash was lying down on his bed. In the meantime, when another student came, and he asked Yadav Prakash a verse from Chandogya Upanishad that what is the color of Lord's eyes? So Yadav Prakash said that the color of Lord's eyes is Kapyasam. Kapyasam. So the student asked that, what is the meaning of Kapyasam? Kapyasam. Now this Yadav Prakash describes this word Kapyasam. He said, Kapi Asam. Kapi means monkey.
Oh,
And Asam means back part of monkey. So the back part of monkey is red. So Lord's eyes are also red. So while Ramanujacharya heard this commentary, he felt so much pain in heart that this person is comparing the beautiful divine eyes of Lord with the back part of the monkey. And the tears start flowing from Ramanuja's eyes, and they fell on the body of Yadav Prakash. So this Yadav Prakash asked, why are you crying? So Ramanuja Acharya said, I cannot tolerate such offense to the lotus feet of the Lord. How you are comparing his lotus eyes with such a nasty part of an animal? So he said, okay, you tell what you want to tell, how you can describe this word Kapyasam. So then he describes Kapi also means Kam Jalam Pibati, means who drinks water from the roots. That means lotus. And Asam means blossoming. So when lotus sees sun, it blossoms. And color of lotus is red. That is the eyes of Lord. Therefore, Lord is called lotus-eyed. So when he described this, everyone became very astonished. How a small child can describe like this? Yes, Sudevi Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Sorry, the sound is very low. I don't know. I'm not able to hear you properly.
Okay. So is it same with everyone?
No problem. We can
No,
hear
no
you.
problem. It's all right.
So
Okay.
right.
Voice is okay, Prabhu.
Maybe you can increase the volume or you can use some headphone. So like,
Okay, I'll try.
yeah,
I will try, Prabhuji.
yeah. So like that, there are many meanings of the same word in Sanskrit. Now, when people interpret Bhagavad Gita, these terminologies, Brahma, Adhyatma, Karma, Adibhuta, Adideva, they may refer to different objectives according to their motive. But the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's purports, beauty of Prabhupada's translation is, he is giving the meanings as per the parampara knowledge. Therefore, even when we read questions, the translation of question itself is so clear that we feel, oh, these are such a simple questions by Arjun. But it's not such a simple questions when you take to the verses themselves. So Krishna starts to describe the answer for these questions. So please hear them very attentively. First one is, what is Brahma? So Lord describes Brahma means living entity, soul, Jiva. And what is Lord, Supreme Lord? Supreme Lord is called Parabrahma. There is two words, Brahma, Parabrahma. So Lord is called Parabrahma and living entity is called Brahma. Now this living entity has two choices. What are the two choices to living entity? One is either he can go to conditioned life or he can go to constitutional nature of his spiritual nature. So he has two choices. Either he can go to conditional life or constitutional life. What is conditioned life? When living entity tries to enjoy in the material world, that is conditional life. And when living entity wants to serve the Supreme Lord, that is called constitutional life or spiritual life. So that gives answer to next two questions. When living entity serves his spiritual nature, that is called Adhyatma. And when living entity enjoys in the material world, that is called karma. Is it clear? First is Brahma means living entity. Living entity has two choices. Either living entity acts in his eternal nature, or living entity acts in the conditional nature. If living entity acts in eternal nature, that is called Adhyatma. If living entity acts in conditional nature, that is called karma. Karma means fruitive activities. Adhyatma means the eternal nature of the Supreme Lord, or eternal nature of the living entity, which is to be servant of the Supreme Lord. Is it clear till these three questions? Any doubt till these three questions? So Devi Mataji, you have question?
Yeah, Prabhuji, what is Brahma? Is Brahma or is Brahman? It's the same Brahma and Brahman?
Yeah, Brahma, Brahman same. And
Oh.
here the context Krishna is using Brahman is soul.
Yeah.
Brahma here is soul. Soul has two choices: eternal nature, conditional nature. Eternal nature is Adhyatma. Conditional activities are called karma. Okay? Now moving ahead. This karma is karma is affected by two things or controlled by two things. One is nature, one is demigods. One is nature, one is demigods. Any karma, if we act, we need these two things: help of nature, help of demigods. So when Prakriti, nature, that is coming into the picture is called Adi Bhuta. Adi Bhuta is Sanskrit name for nature, like material world, material elements, material body, our gross and subtle bodies. All these are material nature. So this is called as Adi Bhuta. Now by nature, material nature is inert. But to control different aspects of nature, there are different demigods. These different demigods are controlling different aspects of the material nature. Like even our body, hands are controlled by Indra, our nose controlled by Ashwini Kumaras, eyes are controlled by sun. Like this, all different parts of our body are controlled by different demigods. So these demigods are the part of universal form of the Lord. You have seen that picture, that photo of universal form of the Lord, where all demigods are the part of Lord's universal form. So that particular form is called Adi Deva, which includes all demigods, all controlling powers of the material world. Till now, any question in these five? First one is Brahma, living entity. Living entity has two choices: either be in spiritual world or in material world. If he acts in spiritual world, that is called Adhyatma. We tell also Adhyatma, we are in Adhyatmic world. Adhyatma means spiritual. Forgetting about that, because we are in conditioned world, we are in karma. Now karma is governed by two aspects. One is Prakriti, one is demigods. This Prakriti nature is called Adi Bhuta. And demigods, who are the part of Lord's universal form, they are called Adi Deva. These are the five basic elements. Okay. Now, who is the master of everything? Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, Karma, Adhyatma, Brahma. Who is controlling all five? The Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is called as Adi Yagya. Adi Yagya means enjoyer of the activities, real enjoyer of the sacrifices. Although living entity is thinking he is enjoyer, but who is the real enjoyer? The Supreme Lord. So Adi Yagya means the Supreme Lord who controls everything. Krishna tells, Aham eva, I am that controller. I am that Adi Yagya. He doesn't say anybody else. He clearly says, I am that Adi Yagya. Till now, is it clear? Soul, two natures, spiritual world, material world. In material world, material nature and demigods, they are influencing us. And who is controlling everything? Demigods, material nature, soul, activities of soul, the Supreme Lord, who is called Adi Yagya. Now, where does Adi Yagya live? Where Adi Yagya lives? So Krishna tells, I live in the heart of all living entities. The resting place of Adi Yagya is, he is present everywhere. In the hearts of all living entities, Supreme Lord lives. And then last question of Arjun, how to remember you, Lord, at the time of death? Then that is the subject matter for the rest of this chapter. In the rest of this chapter, Krishna describes this theme only, how to remember him at the time of death. Yes, Namra Sita Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu, regarding this only, it lies in the heart of the living entity.
Yeah.
So there was one verse it was mentioned also that it is so small, the super soul is so, it becomes so small that it enters into the soul. There is some line.
It enters into soul.
Yes. The living entity is 1,000 part of the tip of a hair, but the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle. Into the heart of this particle.
Actually, here, it doesn't mean that soul in super soul merges. The Prabhupada is saying, even if the soul goes into smallest of the species, the Supreme Lord can go into that species also. He's so small. Like their amoeba, bacteria, some of them are living. There also soul and super soul both are present. So it is just in that context of being very, very small and minute. Not that he enters into this soul. Heart of living entity means that particular body. Yeah. Okay. So these two verses, Krishna answers these mainly 7 answers to Arjuna's questions. Now main theme remains. Main theme is how to remember Krishna at the time of death. So Krishna tells, who can remember me? One who can understand me, one who can know me, he can only remember me at the time of death. Without knowing about Krishna, without knowing about his glories, how is it possible to remember him? Suppose you don't know anybody, you don't know somebody. How can you remember him at the time of death? It is not possible. Therefore, it is very important for devotees to know about Krishna. Therefore, Prabhupada describes this many, many times. One of his favorite verses, which is going to come, that how perfection of life is to remember Krishna at the time of death. But generally, one who has no practice of it during his life, he cannot remember Krishna at the time of death. So let us see what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Abhimanyu Sutta Prabhu, can you read this quote?
Yes, Prabhu. In the transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, one can understand how the Supreme Lord is a governing principle of the material manifestation and even of the demigods. Gradually, by such transcendental association, one becomes convinced of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at that time of death, such a Krishna conscious person can never forget Krishna. Naturally, he is thus promoted to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vrindavan.
So it is not possible that whole life one never heard about Supreme Lord, never focused on the glories of the Supreme Lord, and suddenly at the time of death he will remember the Supreme Lord. That is not possible. So one who practices this throughout his life, he can only remember the Supreme Lord. Lord has given the simple principles of transmigration. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha, madhye tishtanti rajasa, jaganya guna vrittistha, adho gachanti tamasa. Lord says those who are in the mode of ignorance, they go in lower species of life. Those who are in the mode of passion, they stay in the middle planetary system like Bhumandal. And those who are in the mode of goodness, they go to Urdhvam Gachanti in the upper planetary systems. So when the Lord talks about these principles, he doesn't only tell that, okay, at the time of death, one who is in the mode of goodness. No. Throughout the life, whichever mode is prominent, that will become the remembrance at the time of death. It is natural. People remember their children at the time of death. Some people may remember their properties, bank balance, etc. because whole life they were conscious about that. Bharat Maharaj remembered deer because a big portion of his life he was attached to the deer. So at the time of his death, he was remembering the deer. So in the same way, Prabhupada is mentioning here that by transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, means hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, then only it will be possible for a person to naturally remember Krishna at the time. Otherwise, it will not be possible. So that is the main theme, that how Krishna is saying, how somebody can remember him by having that knowledge about him, which he already gave in the previous verse. And what happens after remembering Krishna, the famous verse of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is mentioning, Antakale cha mameva smarana muktva kalevaram, yaha prayati samadbhavam yati nasti yatra sanshaya. Krishna is telling Arjun, if you manage to remember me at the time of death, then after quitting this body, after leaving this body, yaha prayati samadbhavam, you will attain my nature. My nature means divine nature. Krishna's nature is divine, spiritual nature. So conditioned soul who is in the material nature will go to spiritual nature. There is no doubt about it. Krishna is telling with firm conviction. Yes, Namrasita Mataji.
So as you mentioned that we should not go into details, but if you could just brief in 8.3, few things have been given, like this Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic sacrificial process. The 2 paragraphs in between in 8.3.
Let me go. Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic processes. On the sacrificial altar, 5 kinds of offerings are made into 5 kinds of fire. Okay, yeah. These 5 kinds of altars and 5 kinds of fire, these are described by Srila Prabhupada because Krishna is telling, I am the enjoyer of the yagyas. I am the enjoyer of the yagyas. So what are these yagyas? Let us discuss. 5 kinds of fire are considered as heavenly planets, clouds, earth, men, and women. These are 5. Okay, I'll share the screen. Yeah, can you see? So here Prabhupada is telling that Krishna is saying, I am the enjoyer of I am the enjoyer of 5 kinds of sacrifice. So Prabhupada is telling what are the 5 kinds of sacrifice. So he is describing 5 kinds of fires. Sacrifice is done through fire. So it's not just about the normal conventional fire which we see, that you put some rice or paddy there and that is yajna. No, there are different kinds of yajna. Here, although Prabhupada is telling from Chandogya Upanishad 5 types of yajnas, but we'll see in Bhagavad Gita itself many types of yajna, 24 types of yajnas we will see. So there are many types of yajnas. But here Prabhupada is telling from Chandogya Upanishad 5 examples of yajna. Like first one, he's saying heavenly planets. How one goes to heavenly planets? If he has faith on the scriptures, he will follow the pious activities mentioned in the scriptures, he will go to heavenly planets. So that way, by putting the offerings of his faith, he will get the result of heavenly planets. That is one aspect of it. Second, how then, okay, let us see. In the process of sacrifice, living entity makes special sacrifices to attain heavenly planets. Consequently, reaches them. When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, living entity descends to earth in the form of rain. Then take on the form of grains. Then grains are eaten by men, transformed into semen, which impregnates women, and thus living entity once again attains human form to perform sacrifice. So repeated same cycle. In this way, living entity perpetually comes and goes on the material path. Krishna conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifices. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead. So like that, there is like people, they do pious activities, they go to heavenly planets. And there they enjoy the facilities of the heavenly planets. Highest heavenly planet of enjoyment is considered to be the moon planet. Then person enjoys in moon planet, and after enjoyment, the sacrifice is told as cloud. So cloud, the offering of enjoyment is in cloud. Cloud means he has to fall back in the form of rain. You see, first he reads scriptures with faith. He goes to heavenly planet. After going to heavenly planet, he enjoys. So that is the second step, enjoyer in the heavenly planets. Then after enjoyment, his pious activity exhausted. Now he become cloud. Now in the form of rain, he comes back. Where he comes back? To the earth. What happens at earth? In earth, he eats grains. He becomes human being, he eats grains. So after eating grains, he becomes the power of the human being, men. Then he goes in the human being as men, he impregnates woman. So soul transfers from human being, a man, to woman in the form of semen. Then he comes in the womb again, he takes next birth. So they are like zigzag connected to each other. First, scriptures, following the scriptures, going to heavenly planets. Heavenly planets, enjoying. After enjoyment, when pious activities are finished, he comes back to earth in the form of rain. From rain, he interacts with earth. Interaction of earth, he becomes grains. Grains goes to men. Men makes semen. Semen goes to women. Again takes birth as men.
Cookies live.
So like that, cookies also come from grains. They also come from earth. Like that. This is the little connection from Chandogya Upanishad. But we don't need to go into such complexities. Prabhupada is giving some example of sacrifice. In Bhagavad Gita only we will read 24 types of sacrifice. But the summary is, all these type of sacrifices, the real enjoyer is the Supreme Lord, not living entity. That is the main thing. Okay.
So, the second paragraph also, impersonalist commentators on the Bhagavad Gita unreasonably assume that Brahman takes the form of Jiva in the material world, and to substantiate this, they refer to chapter 15. But in this verse, the Lord also speaks of the living entity as an eternal. So, the first 3 lines,
Yeah.
impersonalist comment.
That's what I was describing in the beginning of the discussion, that some interpreters, they tell different names to these Sanskrit terms. They say, oh, Brahma means everything is Brahman. Jiva is Brahma, Lord is Brahman. No. If Brahman is Supreme Lord, then why Arjun is asking about Adi Yagya? Then who is Adi Yagya? Who is the real enjoyer of the sacrifices? Otherwise, why Arjun is asking two different questions? That means they're different people. Brahman is different, Adi Yagya is different. Adi Yagya is Supreme Lord, Brahma is Jiva. So that is the difference. Otherwise, why Arjun is asking two different questions if it is same thing? But impersonalists, to support their theory, they misinterpret these words. Okay. Moksharupi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Prabhu, in fifth verse, Krishna is saying that remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Can you please explain my nature? What does it exactly means? That
The
after
Supreme
remembering
Lord,
Krishna.
yeah, the nature of Supreme Lord is Sat Chit Anand, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Now we are in the world of Asat Achit Nirananda, the world of death, the world of miseries, the world of ignorance. So, attaining Lord's nature means to attain spiritual nature. And that means to going back to Godhead. So, this word comes many times in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, they attain my nature. My nature means Krishna's nature is eternal, and that means devotee goes back to the spiritual world, leaving this material.
It means that devotee goes back to, it doesn't mean only Satchitanand, because if a person dies without remembering Krishna, the soul is always Satchitanand.
But now soul is in the material nature. Soul is Satchidanand, but soul is living in the world of material elements, which is not Satchidanand. But Krishna is saying then soul will be transferred to my nature, means it can revive its Satchidananda aspect. Now soul is in the covering of conditioned body, identifying with the body. So soul has lost that divine nature. So soul revives its eternal divine nature, like that.
But Prabhu, I'm a bit confused. Still, I'm a bit confused. Like Krishna is saying that one who leaves his body means at the time of death, when one is leaving the body, the soul is there. Material body is finished. Now the soul is there, and soul is always Satchitanand Prabhu, isn't it?
No.
As per my understanding.
Here we have to understand there are two types of body. One is gross body, one is subtle body. So here Krishna is saying Kalevaram. Kalevar means gross body. Therefore, many times when we translate it in English, many words don't have exact word also. Kalevar doesn't mean subtle body. Kalevar means gross body. So Krishna is saying when soul leaves gross body and he remembers me with his mind, my nature, my qualities, then he is transported to my spiritual abode. Because at the time of death, subtle body carries soul to the next destination. Now, subtle body is also material body. So, soul doesn't get completely spiritual at the time of death. But if soul remembers Krishna, then the coverings of subtle body also get spiritualized and soul goes back to spiritual nature. That is the sense.
Okay.
There Krishna is saying Kalevaram. Kalevaram means gross body,
Awesome.
while leaving gross body. Okay.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so this verse, we were on the 8th verse here. So this particular verse is very important because that gives the secret of how to enter into the spiritual world. Attaining the Supreme, how to get the access to the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord by remembering him at the time of death. So many times people give this logic that then let me enjoy my life as I want. And then I will remember Lord at the time of death. Like one person has heard whole Srimad Bhagavatam, and then he was asked that which is your favorite character in Srimad Bhagavatam. So he said Ajamil. Why Ajamil? Because he enjoyed also and went back to Godhead also. So Ajamil is my favorite character. But it's not the same. Prabhupada writes in that book, Second Chance, that Ajamil got second chance. Not necessarily we will get second chance. So it's not a very general fact that one who remember Krishna at the time of death, one who does not practice Krishna consciousness throughout his life can remember Krishna at the time of death. Therefore, people may ask why it is important to practice remembrance of Krishna throughout one's lifetime. Because to remember Krishna at the time of death, we need practice. We can examine ourselves, like small accidents in our life, like maybe we fell from a bed in night, or may slip on ground, or some things like that. Does naturally Krishna's name come out from our mouth? Do we remember Krishna naturally at that time? We may remember our mother, father, general people say mummy, or papa, or some other things. Some people nowadays they say shit. One time I was hearing Guru Maharaj was saying, whatever inside their mind comes out. The shit inside mind, shit is coming out of mouth. So if Krishna is in the mind, Krishna will come out. So we have to practice this remembrance of Krishna. Another important point which we should remember, this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Raghunath Das Goswami. He says, Vishair anna khaile malin hai man, malin man haile nahi Krishnera smaran. Very important point. He says, if you are eating food of materialistic people, in a sense, if you are doing materialistic activities in your life, then what happens? Malin hai man, your heart becomes polluted, impure. Malin man haile nahi Krishnere smaran. If heart is impure, heart cannot remember Krishna. Man means mind also, mind. If mind is impure, impure mind cannot remember Krishna. So we need to practice this purity of life throughout. It's not that just at the time of death we'll remember Krishna. And there is another aspect of it. Sometimes devotees give another reason. They say that, what is the use of doing bhakti whole life? What if at the end I will not remember Krishna? Then I lose all my endeavor. There's another insecurity. People think, what if my end of my life, maybe I met an accident and die? Then, or if I go in coma, I may not remember Krishna. If I have some medical emergency, I am put in hospital, I cannot remember Krishna. Then what? If I die during a surgery, I am under anesthesia, I don't know what's happening with me, then what will happen? So that answer is also given in the scriptures. Varadev was asked by Lakshmi. And this also was told by Varadraj to Ramanujacharya also, which Ramanujacharya writes in his commentary. But this is from Vara Puran. Lakshmi asked Varadev, and my dear Lord, if your devotee, he practices your Krishna, he practices your devotional service throughout life. But if he cannot remember you at the time of death, then what will happen? You have told, Antakale cha mameva smarana muktva kalevaram. But what will happen to such a devotee? Then Varadev replies, to such a devotee, I will remember him. He need not to remember me. I will remember such a devotee. And Krishna makes sure that devotee comes back to him. So practicing Krishna consciousness throughout life is very, very important for both the situations. One is to remember Krishna at the time of death. We need to practice Krishna consciousness throughout our life. And another reason is, if by any situation we cannot remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna will see this person was engaged in my devotional service throughout his life. I should bring him back to my abode. So therefore, it's very important that we practice Krishna consciousness throughout our life. And if we don't do that, then what will happen? Krishna is describing in the next verse. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajyante ant kalevaram tam tam eveti konteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Vansi Vilasani Mataji, can you read the translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will remain without fail.
Yeah. So yam vapi smaranam. Okay, you don't want to remember Krishna? Then whatever you will remember at the time of death, that becomes the prominent destination, next destination. Suppose somebody has multiple attachments. So you may get multiple chances in future, different bodies. That is also possible. Like suppose according to somebody's karma, he has to become a pig. But then his karma is also telling him to become a dog. No problem. Krishna has unlimited species. He may become first pig, then dog. No problem. He has to suffer eternally. So like that, but whatever the prominent attachment is at the time of death, person gets the next body accordingly. We can understand this with a simple example. Like suppose you are standing with your family for a group photo. The whole family is standing, you arrange everybody in proper positions, where which person will be in the middle, which person will be in the side, who will be sitting in the front, and you all are ready. And the cameraman is going to just click the picture. Just as he's going to click the picture, at that very moment, just he's going to press the button. At that very moment, one mosquito goes into your nose. Then what will happen? Just mosquito goes in the nose and the person clicks the picture. Then your expression will be something else. That is the time of death. We are making so many arrangements in life. But at the time of death, our object of meditation, our object of thought, that will be last picture. And you know this, who takes this picture? Who takes this picture? Who takes this photo? Chitragupta. Chitragupta is assistant of Yamraj. Chitra means photo. Gupta means secretly. He takes secret photo. Chitragupta. The name only meaning secret photograph. He takes this photo of all living entities, what they are thinking at the time of death. So like that, living entity has to be very, very conscious. What is the object of his meditation? Let us hear from Srila Prabhupada. Kripalu Keshavi Mataji, can you read this quote?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Of course, one's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. So this life creates one's next life. If in one's present life, one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. That will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna.
So therefore, we have to be very, very cautious that we don't take risk. If mosquitoes of attachments will come to disturb us at the time of death, then we will lose our next destination. So we should be very, very conscious that we remember Krishna during our conscious life. And therefore, the process of devotional service is given by Srila Prabhupada in such a way. Now, people have another question. There are two different views. First one is, some devotees say, everything depends on consciousness. Why do you need to have externals? Why you need to wear dhoti kurta, tilak? Why you need to go to, yatras? Why do you need to have any kind of external display of your devotional service? Krishna is just talking about antakalecha mameva smarana muktva. Smarana means just the consciousness, just remembering. Why do you need externals? Other set of devotees say, no, externals are also important. How do we balance this? These two different views. Any thoughts? Some devotees say internal activities are more important. We don't need externals. Krishna don't want to see externals. In some devotees say, no, externals are also important. How do we balance this? Yes, Varat Krishna Prabhu.
The external are important in the sense that when you're dressed like a devotee in public, you should be acting like a devotee because people will be observing you, because you're the, sort of an
Yeah.
attraction.
Yes.
So that's why the external are important. And like, I think this question was asked by Prabhupada, what everybody shave their head? What should we, maybe we should keep long hair then, so that we can come out.
Yeah, the external display, very nice point, Prabhuji mentioned. The external appearance, it impels us to be in our Vaishnava behavior, in our Vaishnava boundary. Suppose you are going to a cinema hall with dhoti, kurta and tilak. Can you go like that to cinema hall? No. Other devotee will catch. Prabhu, what are you doing here? No. I came here to distribute Bhagavad Gita. I'm not here to see movie. We can't do materialistic activities in devotional dress. So externals help us to develop the internal mood. Yes, that is 100% correct. The internal mood are more important than externals. But external devotional service helps us to develop internal mood. Therefore, Krishna is telling Arjun that Arjun, you should act for me and remember me. Both are important. External plus internal. Both are important. Not that you can remember Krishna and kill someone. No, it's not possible. That external activity is non-devotional, but internal mood is devotional. It won't work. Both has to go parallel. Therefore, Krishna is telling in the next verse, Arjun, you should fight for me and remember me also. Suppose Arjun is fighting for Krishna. He is on the side of the Pandavas, but his consciousness is not with Krishna. Then purpose is failed. Another aspect, Arjun is fighting with consciousness of Krishna, but he, in the middle of battle, he goes on the side of Kauravas and he protects Duryodhana. That is also not good. That is also disservice. So both are important. Remembering Krishna and fighting for Krishna and remembering Krishna. Both are important. So in the 7th verse, Krishna gives this very important instruction. You can mark the second line of the verse. Mam anusmara yuddhacha. Very important. Tasma sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha mayi arpita manobuddhir mam evishyasi asanshaya. Again, Krishna is telling how you can come back to me. He is saying, Arjun, you should always think about me. Mam anusmara. Think about me. And not that while thinking about me, you become inactive. No. Yuddhacha. Fight also. So both are important. Doing our duties in a proper religious injunctions of the scriptures and also remembering Krishna while doing our duties. Both are important as per Krishna's instruction here. Sachidanand Prabhu, can you read the translation?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt.
So he's saying that if you want to really come back to me, don't take just chance that you'll remember me at the time of death without working for me. No. Both are important. Ma manusmara yuddhacha. While living, work for me and have consciousness of me. That will make you remember me at the time of death. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a very beautiful example to Rup and Sanatan. Rup and Sanatan were under the service of Mughal emperor. And their names were also changed. Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik. And they were serving this Mughal emperor. So they wrote to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how should we live here? It's not possible for us to live here like this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu writes answer to them in a very indirect way. He gives an example. He says that if a married woman is attached to another man than is her husband, then you know what she does? She will do all the activities of her house very perfectly so that her husband doesn't doubt on her. But as soon as she will get opportunity, she will meet the lover. And while doing household activity also, she will always think about lover. This is a sannyasi's reply to another two sannyasis. But what is the lesson out of it? That we living entity are in material world. In a way, we are married to the material world. But who is our lover? Our lover is Krishna. So we should always think about him. Whenever we get opportunity, we go to temple, serve him, do our devotional activity. But when we are serving this world also, we do our duties perfectly, remembering him. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. He never told that, no, all those responsibilities are not important. You just do your bhajan. No. He said, do your duties nicely, but remember Krishna. Just like a married woman always remembers her lover while doing her household duties. So that is what same thing Krishna is telling here to Arjun. Arjun, ma manusmara yuddhacha. Okay, Amar Nitai Prabhu, can you read this quotation?
Hare Krishna. Arjuna is fighting. That is also Krishna consciousness. Yamsa mam anusmaram. Krishna said that you chant, you remember me, at the same time fight. Yudhasva mam anusmara. He never said that simply fight or simply chant, because in the material world that is not possible. Therefore, chanting must be there, but at the same time, you have to work how to continue this movement. The movement requires energy.
So Prabhupada is telling one more aspect to this verse. Srila Prabhupada is saying that we need help to propagate this movement also. Suppose if somebody chants whole day, first thing is, we are not like Haridas Thakur that we can chant whole day and night. One disciple of Srila Prabhupada went to Srila Prabhupada and he told that, Prabhupada, I want to chant like Haridas Thakur. Prabhupada discouraged him, but he didn't listen to Prabhupada and he still continued chanting. One day he left temple. Nobody knew where he went. After many days, devotees found him on gas station. He's filling gas in the vehicles. He left everything. So Prabhupada made sure that we don't have that adhikar, we don't have that taste for holy name, that we can chant whole day and night. So we need to serve also. We need to do some practical service. One time Jayapataka Maharaj also, he was sharing. Jayapataka Swami Maharaj was in Mayapur in front of Srila Prabhupada's room. And he was chanting very loudly. So Prabhupada heard him chanting. So Prabhupada called him inside his room. And Prabhupada asked him, what are you doing? He said, Prabhupada, I am chanting 64 rounds. Maharaj said that, he was very, he thought that Prabhupada will be very happy when he will hear that he is chanting 64 rounds. But Prabhupada, to his surprise, told, who told you to chant 64 rounds? I didn't tell you to chant 64 rounds. Chant 16 rounds and go and preach outside. That is my instruction. So Prabhupada wanted us to balance this. We don't have to just sit and chant. Neither we become too busy in our services that we don't have time for chanting and reading. Both are important. Ma manusmara yuddhacha. Both. Chanting has to go, service has to go. Both go hand in hand. Prabhupada's movement also require help, and to maintain our consciousness pure, we also do our Shravan Kirtan nicely. So both has to go together. Ma manusmara yuddhacha. That another aspect which Srila Prabhupada is describing here. Now, what happens after remembering? Why remembering Krishna is so important? Krishna is telling the importance of remembering him in the next verse. Abhyas yoga yuktena chetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. Devadev Prabhu, can you read the translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
He who meditates on me as a supreme personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me.
See, main problem we have also seen in the 6th chapter was mind. You remember? Arjuna told, yoga is not possible for me because I cannot control mind. So main problem in the path of perfection is mind, because mind is very fickle. Suppose if we are told that you just close your eyes and you meditate, don't think about anything, don't think about nice foodstuffs, don't think about your bedroom, don't think about your comforts. We cannot do that. Mind needs an object for meditation. Now we all are in meditation. Prabhupada says we all are in samadhi. But what samadhi we are in? We are in materialistic samadhi. We are now always thinking about the sense gratification. One time a devotee came to Srila Prabhupada and he told, Srila Prabhupada, what to do? Sometimes I fall in Maya. Prabhupada said, no, you are always in Maya. Sometimes you fall in Krishna consciousness. So our constant meditation is in sense gratification. Now, if our mind gets the spiritual subject matter for meditation, that is Krishna, then mind will not go to other subject matters. So Krishna says, if you remember me, then you will never be deviated from the path of spiritual life. And that way you will reach to me. So remembering Krishna throughout our life is also a security to a devotee, because we are not making our mind idle. Most of the meditation techniques are, we should just sit and think about nothing. What happens? Two things happen. Either person sleeps or he leaves and he does his sense gratification again. Only two things can happen with such meditation. But if we replace the object of our meditation, that's what Krishna is suggesting here. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya gamina. If you meditate upon me, you are getting such an object of meditation that you will never get deviated. Like devotees seeing the deity of the Lord, he is focusing on the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, he is reading the scriptures. All these are like fixing our mind on the remembrance of Krishna. So that way mind doesn't get deviated. Kripalu Keshwavi Mataji, can you read this quote? Oh, sorry,
Yes,
you already wrote, na? Read. Nishta Mataji, you can read.
okay.
Nishta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. If you think of Krishna 24 hours, then you will become fully Krishna conscious and your life is successful. Don't allow anything. This requires little practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasha nanya gamina. I should not allow my mind to go to think of any other subject than Krishna.
So we have to replace the object of our meditation. Again, mind will run after sense gratification. Mind will run after the objects of the senses. But we have to train the mind that no, I need to remember Krishna. Even while doing our duties, I will relate them to Krishna. Why I am taking care of my family? Because this family is Krishna's family. Why I am taking care of this house? Because this house is Krishna's house. Why I am taking care of my body? Because this body is an instrument by which I can remember and serve Krishna. So everything devotee links with Krishna. And that's how he trains his mind to remember Krishna all the time. Okay, Keshav Priya Mataji, can you read this quote?
Hare Krishna, yes, Prabhu. The mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. One example often given is that of the caterpillar that thinks of becoming a butterfly, and so is transformed into a butterfly in the same life. Similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain that at the end of our lives, we shall have the same bodily constitution as Krishna.
So in simple terms, whatever will be our object of meditation, we'll get the same destination. Yam yam vapi smaran bhava. So if we remember Krishna all the time, slowly, slowly, our thinking will become spiritual. Our intelligence will become spiritual. And that's how we remember Krishna at the time of death, and we go back to Krishna in his eternal abode. So we don't become God, but we become godly. We get the same nature like Krishna. So this is the main subject matter discussed here. In the first 4 verses, we saw Krishna's answer to Arjuna's first 6 questions. Then we saw how remembrance of Krishna at the time of death, which is the answer to 7th question of Arjuna. Now, how this remembrance is cultivated, Krishna is describing 2 methods. One is Yoga Mishra Bhakti and one is Shuddha Bhakti. Yoga Mishra means it mixed with the tendency to do Ashtanga Yoga, which we already read in the 6th chapter. How complicated it is? What is the destination of Yoga Mishra Bhakti? This is described in 9 to 13. Then Krishna tells about Shuddha Bhakti. How devotee can get the destination of spiritual world through pure bhakti, where there is no mixing of yoga. There is no mixing of tendency to become free from this world. See, beauty of Krishna consciousness is, Krishna consciousness will make devotee free from the world. But devotee will never desire to become free from the world. Where in Yoga Mishra Bhakti, what is the subtle desire of yogi? I want to get liberated. I want to get liberated. Even this desire is a contamination. Because if you are surrendering yourself, what is the meaning of surrender? Surrender means you are giving whole charge of yourselves to the person. Now what he wants to do with us, let him decide. So this is the subtle difference between Yoga Mishra Bhakti and Shuddha Bhakti. A Shuddha Bhakta never demands. But a Yoga Mishra, he has this desire that let me get free from this world. So let us read this one by one. Can somebody read text 10, translation for text 10? Okay, Keegan Sharma Prabhu, can you read text 10? Okay, he is busy, it seems. Okay, Shrutidhar Prabhu, you read.
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga with an undividing mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So now Krishna is telling about the Ashtanga Yoga. You remember, we have seen in the previous chapters how Ashtanga Yoga means the 8 processes. It starts with Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharan, Dhyan, Samadhi. So these processes are involved to awaken the chakras in the body, the different chakras in the body. What is this chakra system? the yogi collects the life air and energy from body, from lower parts of his body to upper parts of his body. Like you can see this is not a very detailed subject matter of Bhagavad Gita, so don't worry even if you don't understand much, but it's just we are just studying the concept of yoga. So from the lower parts of the body, yogi collects energy towards upwards. Like he starts with Muladhara Chakra. Muladhara Chakra is near genitals. And see, when people waste their semen or they waste their energy through genitals, their life here is just going from there. So they don't get any spiritual advancement. Therefore, in a spiritual life, first teaching is given is we should learn celibacy. We should learn celibacy. Even as Grihasthas, we should learn celibacy. Only for the procreation we should use this energy. Otherwise, this is spiritual energy. If we waste like that, have you seen animals? One time we were in University of Florida, and His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj was asked why animals are walking on 4 legs and human beings are walking on 2 legs. I was never expecting this question. And when he was asked this question by a student, I was thinking what Guru Maharaj will tell in this. I mean, why human beings are walking in 2 legs and animals are walking on 4 legs. Guru Maharaj gave such a elaborate explanation of these 7 chakras. And he told, see, when animals walk on 4 legs, their energy is going downwards directly. See, they don't have this system of taking this energy towards head. There is horizontal. Their whole body is horizontal. So their energy cannot rise upwards. They just waste their energy in eating, mating, sleeping, defending. But human body is straight. That means human beings can rise their energy from genitals upwards. And he was giving this whole explanation how. Then that go to Swadhisthana chakra, then upper chakras, and then it comes in between the eyes, which Krishna is telling in this verse. So yogis can bring their whole life energy in their upper part of the body. And when this yogi becomes perfect, then his life here comes in the topmost part of the body, which is head, Sahasra Chakra. And then Guru Maharaj explained, what is this Sahasra Chakra? This Sahasra Chakra is the abode for Radha Krishna. In Brahma Samhita, 2nd verse tells, Sahasra Patra Kamalam Gokulakham Mahatpadam. So this Sahasra Chakra means lotus with 1,000 petals. What is that lotus with 1,000 petals? That is spiritual world. So when somebody thinks about spiritual world, that means his life energy he is concentrating on the Sahasra Chakra. So what a yogi achieves after awakening all these chakras, a devotee can directly do that by remembering Radha Krishna. That's what Guru Maharaj was explaining. Is it too complicated? I think too complicated. But Guru Maharaj made it very, very easy. He said, in Brahma Samhita it is told, Sahasra Patra Kamalam. What is that 1,000 petal lotus? That is abode of Radha Krishna. So assimilating our life energy in Sahasra Kamal means remembering Radha Krishna. So yogi becomes perfect when they can focus on the pastimes of Radha Krishna in service of Radha Krishna. But devotee naturally, that is the object. Devotees can naturally do that. So they don't need to go through all this process of awakening the chakras. If they directly remember Radha Krishna, their life energy will get concentrated in the Sahasra Chakra. Yes, Namrasita Mataji.
Prabhu, that means in the Sahasra, when the yogi attains that last stage, Sahasra Chakra one, he automatically sees the eternal abode of Krishna, Radha Krishna. He sees that.
Yes, that is the problem. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. See, he reached to that level. He's very close. But if he cannot go beyond that level, just a small layer of crossing and remembering Radha Krishna, then he will end up into Brahma Jyoti. Krishna will tell this in the subsequent verses. Then he will just end to the periphery of spiritual world. See, you see in the diagram, the yogi, what is the periphery of spiritual world? The lotus is starting from Brahma Jyoti. So he will reach at most Brahma Jyoti. But the moment he enters into the personal service to Radha Krishna, remembrance of Radha Krishna, remembrance of their service, then he will get entrance into the spiritual world. Otherwise, he will just be in the Brahma Jyoti. So we'll see in the subsequent verses, Krishna will describe this. Krishna will tell how a yogi actually is not guaranteed to enter into spiritual world. At most, yogi can go to Brahma Jyoti. That is Krishna is describing in the following verses. But in the 10th verse, Krishna is telling at the time of death, what yogi does, he fixes his life hair between his eyebrows by the strength of yoga. He collects his life energy from the lower parts and he rises that energy to the life hair between the eyebrows, which is Agya Chakra. And then he engages himself in the remembrance of the Supreme Lord, and by remembering that, he can attain the Supreme Lord. But that particular process is called Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Anupama Mataji, can you read 11th translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. Person who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkar, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall not explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation.
Yeah. So the persons who are focusing on this life here, generally these yogis, they meditate on Omkar. They chant Omkar. Their pranayam starts with Omkar. And what generally they get destination, Krishna is telling, they enter into Brahman. Brahman means impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. So their destination is very clear. They are going into Brahman. And what are the prerequisites? They have to practice celibacy, as we discussed. Why celibacy? Because their life energy doesn't get wasted. Okay, there is one question in the chat. What about Matajis? So when we talk about semen, it doesn't mean semen as in the male. See, there are 7 dhatus in the body. So when we talk about semen, it's same in women and men, life energy. We can call it more precisely as life energy. So wasting a semen for men and for women also, when they engage in sense gratification, in the intercourse and other things, they also waste their energy. So that life energy get wasted basically. So when we practice celibacy, that life energy is saved and that life energy inspires Jiva to remember Krishna. And we can see that all spiritual paths, why they practice spirituality, why they practice celibacy. Because celibacy helps us to remember Supreme Lord. It's a tool, basically. So here, Krishna is telling they have to practice celibacy. Let us read the next verse. Venudhari Prabhu, can you read?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
12th verse.
The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga.
So now he is telling about the stage of Pratyahar, which is the 5th stage of yogic perfection. You remember Pratyahar? We have studied in the 6th chapter, where yogi stops all gates for sense gratification. Now, I don't want sense gratification. I just want to fix my mind in the spiritual nature. So that's how now from the between the eyebrows, he takes life air to the top of the head. You can see the difference. Krishna told in the previous verse, he starts yoga, brings his life air to the between eyebrows, which is the second last destination in meditation. And then he takes this life air to the head. Thanks to Srila Prabhupada, we don't have to practice this. But yogic perfection, they have to do all this gymnastics. And once they get this life air in head, then they are not allowing any sense gratification. No engagement in sense activities. Complete stop. And that level is called samadhi. When there is no other thought than Supreme Lord. That is complete samadhi. Undisturbed transcendental trance is called samadhi. And then what happens? Described in the 13th verse. Finally, what happens? Okay, who will read? Let us see. Moksharupi Prabhu, can you read?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred level Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets.
So, if that yogi now, who is in samadhi, who has no sensual activities, who is completely fixed in the Supreme Lord, now, if he chants Om and leaves his body in that condition, then he will go to spiritual nature. Now, there are three varieties here. Om is impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. If he only chants Om, then he will go to Brahmajyoti. If he chants some Narayana mantra starting with Om, like Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, he will go to Vaikuntha planets. Like suppose he is chanting Om Nrsimhaya Namah, he'll go to Nrsimha planet. If he is chanting some Ram mantra starting with Om, he'll go to Rama's abode. He'll go to Vaikuntha planets. But if he chants Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he will go to Golok Vrindavan. Even Gayatri, which they are second initiated, they know, they start with a Bij mantra, either Om or Aim or Kling. So these are all Bij mantras. So if we chant these Bij mantras, then we go to Vaikuntha. And if you only chant Bij, like only Om, then Brahmajyoti. And if we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is only Nam, we go to Golok Vrindavan. Therefore, Prabhupada told here, certainly reach spiritual planets. Which spiritual planets will depend on his level of attachment to Krishna. Any questions still here? Yes, Namrasita Mataji.
Prabhu, what does this line state? It is clearly stated here that Om, Brahman and Lord Krishna are not different. Ye to chalo samajh aa gaya. The impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna contains Om.
Yeah, like if you take sun globe has heat and light. But heat and light doesn't have sun globe. You understand? In the same way, impersonal aspect of Lord is Om. But Om may not have complete Supreme Lord. So when we chant Hare Krishna, the name Radha and Krishna are non-different from Radha Krishna. So they are personal feature. Holy name, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is personal aspect of the Supreme Lord. So it involves impersonal aspect also, Paramatma aspect also. But only Om is impersonal aspect. It doesn't have that personal feature. That is the difference. Okay?
Yes. Thank
So
you.
Devi Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, going to Brahmajyoti, there's one, they go in, they remain in a subtle form, or they get the spiritual form in Brahmajyoti?
They get spiritual form. They don't go in subtle body. But the problem is there is no activity. There is only light. So Jiva can't see himself. He can't see anybody else, only light. How long he will stay there? So again he falls down. That is the problem with Brahmajyoti. Therefore, our acharyas have called it as spiritual suicide. Suicide means killing oneself. So going to Brahmajyoti means killing one's own identity. We are going there, no activity, we are losing ourselves actually in one sense. So therefore, Brahmajyoti is not very much appreciated by our acharyas. Okay?
Thank you.
So this was the brief description about the yogic process where he collects his energy from the lower chakras to the between eyebrows. He practices celibacy. He is very strict. Then he goes to the level of pratyahar, where he doesn't engage himself in the external sensual activities. He remains celibate. He then takes that life energy to the Brahmarandra, the Sahasra Chakra, and then if he chants Omkar, he goes to Brahman. But Krishna is telling one easy way out. What is the easy way out? Described in the 14th verse. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smaranti nityasha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yukta yogina. Because after describing all that, Krishna could see Arjun's expression. Arjun was not very impressed by the difficult process of yoga. So Krishna tells, okay, I'll tell you a sulabha. Sulabha means easy process. What is the easy process? Ananya cheta satatam. You have to remember me. Krishna, I will remember you, don't worry. No, not like this. Ananya cheta. Ananya. Very important word, you can highlight that. Ananya. Anya means any other. Anya. Anya means others. Ananya means without any other shelter. Exclusive remembrance. Exclusive shelter. Ananya cheta satatam, always. Satatam means always. You have to remember me always and without anybody else. You should only remember me. Yomam smarati nityasha. Those who remember me, tasyam sulabha partha. I am available to them very easily. Nitya yuktasya yogina. If they are engaged in my devotional service. Nitya yuktasya yogina. Yogina, best of the yogis, is devotee. Please read the translation, Pratima Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. O son of Pritam, because of his constant engagement in devotional service.
So like that, Krishna is telling about Ananya Bhakti. As we discuss, Ananya. Ananya means without any other alternatives. Exclusive Bhakti. Another name for Ananya Bhakti is Shuddha Bhakti. Without any adulteration. Kevala Bhakti. Exclusive devotional service. So when a devotee practices this type of bhakti, then Krishna takes full charge of such a devotee. He says, if somebody is engaged in my Ananya Bhakti, Ananya remembrance, he will come to me very easily. Tasyaham sulabha partha. Very easily one can attain me without any difficulty. Very easily attain. Satatam. Everywhere. Another aspect of Satatam means any place, any time. A devotee will remember me. Any place, any time. No problem if he is in office, no problem if he is in work, no problem if he is traveling, he is at home. He will always remember me. Now the question is, if we remember Krishna all the time, pure devotee, they can do that. Remembering Krishna anywhere, anytime. And they create atmosphere of Vrindavan by their devotional service. Like Srila Prabhupada went to Bowery in New York, but he was feeling he is in Vaikuntha. He was not feeling he is in the hellish place. What can we do to be in Vrindavan all the time? I will request you to write down some points. Practically, what can we do? Like in work, what we can do? While traveling, what we can do? Household activity, what we can do? While studying, what we can do? If we don't have anything to do, what we can do? So all these are, some practical application points which we should think. What we can do to be in Vrindavan consciousness all the time, in Ananya consciousness of thinking Krishna all the time. So I will just divide the class into 3 rooms. Please be very quick. Give your examples quickly. We don't have much time today. So please be very quick. And we'll be back just in 5 minutes. Very quick. Write down the points. Give to your speaker. After 5 minutes, we meet again. Okay? How to remember Krishna all the time. Please join your rooms.